And I wanted to see his reaction to other people knowing about what he was doing. And that's when we started to read this murder rape fantasy. And maybe halfway through it, his mother asked us to stop. She looked at him. She had some choice words for him. And he looked at us dead in the eyes. And he said, yeah, it was me, I did it.
What are the choice words his mum said to him?
I believe she said, you're a fucking asshole.
Wow.
Yes. And at that point, we didn't need anything else. You know, he admitted to everything without us asking a single question.
We attempted to speak with Patrick and his family for this story. And they declined. Do you remember your reaction to his arrest?
Yeah, I was shocked that they had built the case enough to be able to arrest him.
It had been months since Patrick's off-and-on high school friend, Cecilia, had given her statement to detectives. She knew there was an ongoing investigation, but figured nothing would come of it.
Because when it happened, I didn't think that it was enough. It was a threat and predatory and dangerous, but I didn't think that the law would see it that way. I didn't think that they would validate. I didn't think that they would view it as something that needed to be punished and put away for. I had lost hope that this was going to turn into anything. So when I found out that he was arrested, I was so surprised.
These concerns that Cecilia had about whether what Patrick Carey had done to her would be seen as a crime, those were the very same concerns nagging the prosecutors in charge of this case. Patrick Carey's behaviour was awful, but was it criminal?
From iHeart Podcasts, Bloomberg and Kaleidoscope. From iHeart Podcasts, Bloomberg and Kaleidoscope, this is Levittown. I'm Margie Murphy.
And I'm
Margie Murphy.
And I'm Olivia Carville. That night, Patrick was pulled off his front porch, handcuffed, put into the back of a police car, and escorted into a small 8x8 interview room at the Nassau County Police Department.
Is it here? No worries, no worries. You're welcome.
There, he
You
handed
too,
over...
take care.
devices and signed a confession. One of the questions the detectives had for Patrick was, why? Why did he do this? Which was the same question Margie and I had for Patrick. Patrick and his former attorney declined to be interviewed for this podcast. But what we do have is the statement he gave the evening of his arrest. Patrick started by admitting that he was the sole person behind several usernames on the website and that he'd been active there since 2019, his senior year of high school.
I started using these accounts because I became bored and could not find any interest in my life.
This is a voice actor reading verbatim from Patrick's confession.
I became addicted to internet pornography and began to find websites such as comeonprintedpics.com.
Patrick says he used the website for more than 2 years, posting pictures of the girls he went to high school with their social media handles and other contact information. He said that he encouraged other users to, as he puts it,
shame these females into a depression and cause them to be too scared to use any form of social media. I found a thrill in posting these things to that website because I knew that what I was doing was wrong, and that I was causing fear and embarrassment to these girls. This gave me a sense of life, knowing that in the back of my head this was wrong, and that I would one day be caught.
he described it as almost an obsession. Is almost an obsession, a cycle of thrill-seeking, then guilt, then thrill-seeking again.
From time to time, throughout the course of me posting on this website, I did begin to feel remorse for the fear and embarrassment I was causing these girls. Once the sense of remorse wore off, I would become complacent and bored, and seek the thrill of posting something again, knowing it was wrong. I am sorry for the fear, suffering, and embarrassment I have caused to all of the victims.
I'm going through it and I'm reading his statement and I'm like, okay, wow. It was awful. Like, it was an awful thing to read.
Assistant District Attorney Melissa Scannell was at her desk the Monday morning after Patrick's arrest. Melissa has experience prosecuting sex crimes. She's also the head of prosecuting sex crimes. She's also the head of the office's cyber crimes unit. The details of this particular report jumped out.
A lot of what I do, I see really horrible things. And I have, my prior cases, my cases now, I've seen and dealt with pretty terrible things. So sometimes my barometer is off. And I find it very helpful to go to somebody else and be like, is this that? Else and be like, is this that bad? Is this worse? Am I reacting normally here?
After she read Patrick's statement, she ran down the hall to find her colleague, Kelsey Laura.
It was shocking. It was the things he was saying, what he was doing. It was shocking, and it kind of stays with you. To me, it seemed like the purpose of the website wasn't even sexual anymore. It was more, let's take women down a peg. Let's, degrade them. Basically, that was the purpose of the website. Was degradation.
Kelsey's another assistant DA. She usually works on racketeering cases, things like organized crime, drug trafficking, extortion. But this case was different. It was more personal. Kelsey had graduated from MacArthur High School. She had walked the same halls as these young women. Kelsey and Melissa looked at the charges and realized it was a series of misdemeanor harassment and obscenity violations, meaning Patrick would only face up to a year in jail at most. They believed his actions were much more serious.
There were absolutely some posts where he was soliciting death or rape threats about these young women, attached to all of their personal information, and people were responding and writing death or rape fantasies. When does that become somebody who says, okay, I'm gonna act this out?
They believed he should be charged with at least one felony, but to do that, they had to file new charges. Patrick had since been from police custody and was back at his family's home awaiting next. Had since been released from police custody and was back at his family's home awaiting next steps. New York law gave the prosecutors only 90 days to figure out what those new charges should be.
Kelsey and I were on a clock.
And how to make them stick.
Because if the charges get dismissed, then we're out of luck. We can't charge him with anything else.
The prosecutors weren't sure if what Patrick had done, creating and posting these manipulated images, was a crime, let alone a felony.
This is awful. This should be illegal, but what is this? What is this crime?
He was posting morphed naked photos of teenage girls. How is that not illegal?
Because they weren't real.
Patrick could argue that these posts were artistic expression, which is protected under the First Amendment. This is something that still hasn't been settled in US courts. So the prosecutors needed to keep looking. They needed to find something that didn't count as free speech. They got warrants for all of Patrick's social media accounts, everything from Instagram to the messaging app Kik, and began going through his phone and his tablet. Police found them in the top drawer of a TV stand in the basement.
Off to the races.
The first thing we did was start going through the website and trying to, first of all, preserve it. We didn't know now that he had been arrested. Is he going to go back? Is he going to try to take things down?
At this point, we didn't know where we were going.
They had to start by identifying everyone who Patrick had targeted, because it turned out he had gone after many more women than the ones who had gone to the police.
At some point in the beginning, we just had nicknames for them all, because depending on how we were going through it, they wouldn't necessarily have a name attached until later. You know, he did attach their names, but we might be looking not chronologically because we're going by username or things. So we had a lot of nicknames for these young women to be like, oh, no, we've seen her before. That's, you know, we had one we called eyeliner. She always had, her eyeliner was just on point in every picture. So we're like, oh, there's eyeliner again. Okay. And then eventually we figured out what eyeliner's name was, and we're like, oh, okay. When we were going through the website by itself, we were doing that together, partially to buttress each other's weaknesses and strengths, right? You know, I'm like a little bit face blind, so she was much better at like, no, we've definitely seen her before, things like that. And then partly, not to sound ridiculous about it, but like for moral support. Like, it was a very difficult site to go through, and you needed to go through it with somebody else.
The two women split up the work. Kelsey took the lead, figuring out if they could charge him with a felony offence. She grabbed the thick volume of the state's penal code and started going through it, page by page.
I literally just took the book down from the shelf and started from the beginning and went through, even if it kind of seemed like it wouldn't fit. Like, obviously, this isn't going to be a robbery, but I looked at every single statute and I made a document to say, like, is there anything